Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjalashalaghaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaurabhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. So we are going to start with today's verse from 5th canto 18th chapter, verse number 23, and sharing it on the screen also. Okay. All right. So reading from the 5th canto, 18th chapter, verse number 23. Satam mamapi achyutta shrishni vanditama karambhujam yatvad adhai satvatama vivarshimam lakshma varenyamaya ka ishvaresya hitam uhitam vibhurti. Synonyms: so that from you, mama, of me, api, also, achyut, o infallible one, Krishni, on the head, vanditam, worshipped, kara ambujam, your lotus hand, yat, which, what, by you, adai, placed, satvatam, on the head of the devotees, viparshi, you maintain, mam, me, lakshma, as an insignia on your chest, Varenya, O worshipable one, Ma Yaya, with deceit, Ka, who, Ishwarasya, of the supremely powerful controller, Itam, the desires, Vitam, to understand why, by reason and argument, Vibhu is able, Iti, thus. Translation: O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on your heads, on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives. Okay, translation. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In many places, the Shastras describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being more inclined towards his devotees than towards his wife, who always remains on his chest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-15, it is stated, Na tata me priyatama atmayo nirna sankara na cha sankarshano na shrir naivatma cha yatha bhavan. Here Krishna plainly says that his devotees are more dear to him than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the original cause of creation, the goddess of fortune, or even his own self. Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukdev Goswami says, Limam virinchano bhavo nashir apyanga samshaya prasadam levire gopi yat tat prapa vimuktidat. The Supreme Lord, who can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy towards the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60 also states, Nayam Shriyam Gayu Nitantarate Prasada Swaryo Shidam Nalinagandharu Champta Anya Rasotsave Asya Bhujya Danda Grihata Kanta Labdai Shisham Ya Udagad Vrajasundarinam. The gopis received benedictions from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. In the Rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate gopis by placing his arms on their shoulders and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the gopis who received the causeless mercy of the Lord. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that no one can receive the real favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without falling in the footsteps of the gopis. Even the goddess of fortune could not receive the same favor as the gopis, although she underwent severe austerities and penances for many years. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discusses this point with Venkat Bhatt in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 9.111 to 131. The Lord inquired from Venkat Bhatt, your worshipable goddess of fortune Lakshmi always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Shri Krishna. Oh, a coward boy engaged in tending cows. Why is that Lakshmi, being a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha and for a long time accepted vows and regulative principles and performed unlimited austerities. Venkat Bharat replied, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. They are very pleasing for Krishna's Shaktis. Since Krishna and Narayan are both the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna did not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by a relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of their rasa dance. If she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking so about this? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault in the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the rasa dance. We heard this from revealed scriptures. The authorities of Vedic knowledge met Lord Ramchandra in Dandakaranya, and by their penances and austerities, they were allowed to enter in the rasa dance. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not get an opportunity? To this, Venkata Bharat replied, I cannot enter into the mystery of this incident. I am ordinary living being. My intelligence is limited, and I'm always disturbed. How can I understand the pastimes of Supreme Lord? They are deeper than millions of oceans. Lord Chaitanya replied, Lord Krishna has a specific characteristics. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. By following the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Brajlok or Golok Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. However, the inhabitants of that planet do not know that Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Unaware that Krishna is the supreme lord of the residents of Vrindavan like Nand Maharaj, Yashoda Devi, and the gopis treat Krishna as their beloved son or lover. Mother Yashoda accepts him as her son and sometimes binds him to a grinding motor. Krishna's coward boyfriend think he is an ordinary boy and get up on his shoulders. In Golok Vrindavan, no one has any desire other than to love Krishna. The conclusion is that one cannot associate with Krishna unless he has fully received the favor of the inhabitants of Rajbhumi. Therefore, if one wants to be delivered by Krishna directly, he must take to the service of the residents of Vrindavan who are unalloyed devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So the entire purpose of sharing the purport was to not to take you to fifth canto, but actually because of Prabhupada's purport, which explicitly mentions that if you want to attain Krishna in Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, then you have to follow the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. There is no other way possible. Because in the last class, we had gone across another purport by Srila Prabhupada where he says that, again, the same thing he said, that one has to follow the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. So with the theme, the same theme, I am going to continue our discussion about Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON part 2. So anyone remembers what, like, where did we stop last time? I think we covered till did we cover this verse Seva Sadhaka Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrai? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yes. Yeah, I think we discussed about that someone who wants to worship Radha and Krishna, but they do not want to worship in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis, then they will attain Dwarka, because they worship Radha Krishna in Aishwarya Bhav, Vaidhi Bhakti. So that way they are not going to attain the spiritual world of Vraj. I think we stopped there last time. Okay, so let's assuming, because I don't think any devotee remembers it. I'm not seeing any hands raised and anyone.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Uh, so yeah, of course, definitely it is true. And I did share about the different definitions of Raganuga Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti as shared by Srila Prabhupada, right? So Srila Prabhupada gave some general definitions, and then he also, now in this part we also understood what exactly Raganuga Bhakti is. It's a technical definition. Basically, it means that we have to follow in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis, and Raganuga Marg applies only in the Vraj portion of Golok Vrindavan. Okay, Golok Vrindavan is inclusive of Mathura as well as Dwarka, right? But Raganuga Bhakti does not apply there because Mathura and Dwarka, they are both covered with some type of formality, Aishwarya Bhav, awe and reverence. So we understood one thing clearly, that Raganuga Bhakti only applies to Vraj section of Golok Vrindavan. And then specifically, then I think we also discussed about Ragatmika devotees of the Lord, Ragatmika Bhaktas, who are eternal associates of the Lord. They are Nitya Siddhas and they descend with Krishna from the spiritual world. So these devotees, so the Raganuga, Ragatmika Bhakti is actually possessed by the Ragatmika devotees of the Lord, who are eternal associates. Okay, not someone who is like, I mean, this is how Rupa Goswami defines in Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, and not someone who is in the like Bhoma Vraj currently, but someone who is already in Nityasiddha. Okay, so this is because Raganuga Bhakti means following the footsteps of those devotees who are Ragatmika Bhaktas of the Lord. Okay, when we are talking about eternal associates of the Lord, especially the Vrajvasis, so these are Ragatmika Bhaktas. They are eternal associates of the Lord, Nitya Siddhas. And when we follow them, so because Raganuga is a sadhana, it is not perfection, it's not a perfect state. The perfect state will be Ragatmika. Okay. Whereas following and practicing the mood and sentiments of the eternal associates will be called as Raganuga sadhana. So Raganuga sadhana, it's a type of sadhana. So there is Vaidhi sadhana and there is Raganuga sadhana. That all we discussed last time, I think. And yeah. Okay, so maybe did we also discuss about the different definitions of devotees, the context of Kanishta Bhakti, Madhyama and Uttama? Because the definition which is given, I think in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is also there in the Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, it is all related to Vaidhi Bhakti, because it is dependent on the belief and faith in scriptures. So the more you are conversant with scriptures, the more you have faith in the scripture, the stronger you become in your faith in the scripture, the more you advance to different stages of Vaidhi Bhakti. And Uttama Bhakti is the one who has very extremely strong faith in the scriptures, and he is very well conversant. He can quote Shastra, he can defeat arguments of the opposition. Very strong faith he has in the path of bhakti. So is actually Uttama Bhakti. But of course, this is again defined in terms in the context of Vaidhi Bhakti. Because whenever there is dependence on Shastra or scripture, it is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Raganu Bhakti is totally independent. Of course, we take the most important siddhants of the pastimes of Krishna, and if you want to understand Krishna, that all will of course come from scripture. It is not that we reject or completely ignore scriptures, but we follow the bhakti scriptures, and especially we emphasize and focus on the Raganuga sadhana aspect of the scriptures. So Srimad Bhagavatam is actually one of the scriptures which actually encourages us to follow the Raganuga spontaneous path. And then there will be other scriptures which will actually glorify, or they will describe about the awe and reverence by the aspect of bhakti. So of course that also we have to learn, but we don't we need to ignore some portions of that. So I think we had discussed this last time also, that let's for example, if while chanting certain mantras, if the mantra consisting of Rukmini in Dwarka or Satyabhama, then we are not supposed to chant those mantras. Okay, because that will be contrary to the principles of Raganuga Bhakti. We don't want to worship the Lord in awe and reverence. Of course, it all depends on devotees' desires. Everyone has a personal desire. If they want to attain Krishna in Vrindavan, specifically in Braj, then they cannot mix Vaidi into it. And we'll see how Vaidi Bhakti is mixed and how it is not mixed also. Because we are going to focus more on the practices of Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON. How in ISKCON we are actually practicing Raganuga Bhakti. Okay, because people from outside or devotees from outside may say that ISKCON Prabhupada did not give a particular direct way to practice Raganu or to implement the practice of Raganu Bhakti in ISKCON. So how do we understand that, right? So all right, there is one question by one devotee. What is the difference between Raganuga and Rupanuga? Okay, so I think name of the devotee is curious. Okay, so okay, out of curiosity, I'm answering this question. But so Raganuga is spontaneous devotion without awe and reverence, without the dependence on Shastra. Spontaneous means that it inculcates the sentiments of the Vrajvasis. Basically, we want to develop, cultivate the sentiments of the Vrajvasis, their love for Krishna. That we want to cultivate in their own sentiment and love towards Krishna and their associates. So basically, it's more familiar kind of relationship. It's more on, like we say, familiarity breeds contempt. So it is more, you become more intimate and familiar to Krishna, because only when you have a very intimate and close relationship with Krishna, like for example conjugal love, or as a parent, or as a friend, or as a servant, but not with, in context of worshipping Krishna as a master, like, he's with awe and reverence, not that kind of attitude. There is sweetness in all the rasas, but but focus is on thinking that Krishna is not God. He's ordinary coward boy, like that. So that kind of sentiment is called Raganuga. And Rupanuga, of course, when we are talking about following the footsteps of the Vrajvasis, then Rup Goswami is the sadhaka form of Rup Manjari, and Rup Goswami is the eternal form of Rup Manjari, when Rup Manjari comes and assists Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the sadhaka form of Rup Manjari is Rupa Goswami. So when we say that we want to follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas of Vrajvasis, because Rup Manjari is actually the maid servant of Radharani, and she is the eternal associate in Vrindavan. So that's why when we follow Rupa Goswami, then we are called as Rupanugas. So following Rupa Guna basically means whatever Rupa Goswami has taught us. So we accept that and we implement that, and we surrender to that. So that is Rupanuga. Of course, then there is a question of Prabhupada Nuga also. Those who are followers of Prabhupada, so they are called Prabhupada Nugas, like that we can say. But essentially, you can say we are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followers, and that entire Sampradaya philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is represented by Srila Rupa Goswami and the six Goswamis, Jeev Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, like that. So, anyways, let's go ahead. So, this definition of Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama is in context with Vaidhi Bhakti. Don't confuse with Raganuga Bhakti. Okay. So, all right. So now I would like you to refer to the verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 3. Let me share on the screen. So reason for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, or you can say the reason for Krishna's appearance also. So that will understand more clearly by these verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so I'm sharing on the screen. Okay, so text number 11 and uh, till text number 15. So servitude, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the four transcendental mellows. By the devotees who cherish these four mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Krishna enjoys in Raj with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus: for a long time, I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. Everywhere in the world, people worship me according to scriptural injunctions. But simply by following such regulated principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Rajbhumi. Knowing my opulences, knowing my opulences, um, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and reverence, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the four kinds of liberations. Okay, and now I would like to refer to verse number 26 to 28. Okay, so 26, my planetary portions can establish the principle of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Raj. There may be many all auspicious incarnations of personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Shri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastime. Thinking thus, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna himself descended at Nadia early in the age of Kali. Yes. Okay, so one thing also we understand from these verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 3, the chapter name is External Reasons Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Appeared. That Krishna is not satisfied just by bestowing, in general, Samanya Bhakti to all the devotees. Uh, he has special inclination for Vraj Bhakti only. And that's the main reason Krishna appears. So he's not satisfied with different types of incarnations, bestowing the Vaikuntha Bhakti and Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay. So he especially wants to give us the Vraj Prem. And that's the reason Krishna appears actually. The more one of the so because in the verse that we read, it also mentions that any other incarnation could have served the purpose of establishing dharma. Then what is the need for Krishna to personally appear? Because we know that Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So Krishna personally appears only for one reason, is to, of course, bestow Vraj Prem. And this is the reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also comes. Krishna, of course, when he comes and he distributes Vraj Prem, it is limited, restricted. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, he breaks apart all the barriers and he freely distributes the nectar throughout the world. At least Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed personally in South India, and then through his associates, it was gradually spread throughout India. And then later on, Srila Prabhupada came and then he distributed throughout the world, right? So this type of Raj Bhakti is extremely rare, and this is what we are discussing currently. So now, see, if someone will claim this that your ISKCON is not giving Raganuga Bhakti, it is basically only talking about Vaidhi Bhakti because we know that we are following certain rules and regulations. Like for example, we have to get up in the morning, we have to perform Mangala Aarti, then we have to hear Bhagavatam class, then we have to um, chant so many rounds every day. Then there are so many rules and regulations that we follow, and there is no discussion of following a particular associates of the Lord in Braj, right? So ISKCON is not saying about these things. Then how can ISKCON bestow? How can ISKCON bestow Rag Marg? Or how did Prabhupada bestow Rag Marg to us? So see, one direct refutation of this particular claim is evident from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela. Let me show you on the screen. chapter number 4, and the verse is 4:15 to 16. प्रेम रस निर्या से करिते आस्वादन, राग मार्ग भक्ति लोके करिते प्रचारण, रसिक शेखर कृष्ण परम करुण, ये दुई हेतु हईते इच्छार उद्गम. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus, he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. Okay, so see, this is the main reason why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And if ISKCON is not doing that, this is actually one of the foremost objective of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for which he appeared in this material world. And if ISKCON does not follow that, the entire purpose of ISKCON will be lost. We say that we are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Our ISKCON is one branch of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. But how can we justify this objective if we do not distribute Prem Ras, right? So it is impossible that we do not distribute this Rag Marg, right? So this is a direct refutation of outside claim. And one thing we can understand that, of course, it is obvious that when we talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood and mission, we are talking about this verse and we want to establish this objective. So how do we establish this objective? That we'll discuss now. Okay. So I would also like to point out that in the Bhakti Sandarbh, Srila Jiva Goswami in Anuched 312. So what he says that there are two types of Raganuga practices which can be cultivated. So one is, he says, is it is Ajat Ruchi and other is Jata Ruchi. So now what is the difference between these two? So Jiva Goswami says that Jata Ruchi means those for, like, there are devotees for whom the taste has already been developed. It has already come about. And then there is Ajata Ruchi devotees who are sadhaka devotees for whom the taste has not yet been developed. So you can say that they are still forcing themselves to do certain activities of devotional service. They may like bhakti, but they are not totally on the spontaneous platform. Okay, so they are striving to come to that platform. But then there are devotees who are already on that platform. So Jiva Goswami says that for these two type of devotees, uh, especially for, see, for those who have already got taste, they can definitely practice Raganuga Bhakti. And further we'll discuss how devotees at this particular platform can, living in ISKCON, they can actually practice Raganuga Bhakti. And those devotees who are not yet at that stage, so Jiva Goswami recommends that they should combine Vaidhi Bhakti principles with their practice of Raganuga Bhakti. Right? So now what is the meaning of this? It basically means that we accept certain elements of Vaidhi Bhakti that will regulate us in our sadhana. It will push us and, like, it will inspire us in such a way that finally will come to a spontaneous platform and a steady platform. For example, deity worship is actually, like, Srila Prabhupada incorporated deity worship, right? So deity worship actually comes in Panchratrik Vidhi, and Vidhi means it is connected to Vaidhi Bhakti because we are following certain rules and regulations in order to worship the deity of the Lord. So for that, like, let's say, for example, if devotees have deities in their house, so what will they do? They will, if they have deities, then their entire schedule will be adjusted in such a way so as to accommodate the schedule of the deity. So you'll fix your schedule basically, and that means you will have to wake up the Lord at a particular time. You'll have to offer bhoga to the Lord at a particular time, and you have to do this consistently, steadily. And of course, you have to also maintain cleanliness, external cleanliness as well as internal cleanliness, right? So now, someone who is not habituated to this, a steady schedule, some devotees who are very whimsical in their eating habits, sleeping habits, waking habits. For them, this is a very good platform to come to a steady platform. And that steady platform, if you practice for a couple of months, years, couple of years, then it will become your secondary nature, or maybe you can say your primary nature, because you may have a primary nature, but then if you practice certain qualities or certain activities and you do it for a long time, it becomes your primary nature, right? So what happens, that entire practice will take you to a spontaneous level, a steady level. So that steadiness, for in order to come to that steady platform, we take help of Vaidhi Bhakti, because it is all rules and regulations. Like for example, when you go to school, you go to college, you follow certain rules and regulations, and then finally, you get up early in the morning, you dress up, and then you have to comb your hair, then you have to cut your hair short. You cannot make it long, otherwise your teachers will, they will not allow that. So in schools and colleges, you have certain rules and regulations, but then finally, when you go to graduate, postgraduate schools, then there are no rules and regulations, especially related to your personal lifestyle. Of course, you have to give exams, you have to submit your assignments on time. These are all there, but then at least with the context of personal lifestyle, it you become free, right? So the entire purpose is to come to that spontaneous platform so that you can start worshipping the Lord without forcing yourself. It will become a natural thing for you because you develop taste, right? So from ajat ruchi, you come to jat ruchi. And once you come to that platform, then you can start practicing Raganuga. Of course, there are stages of devotion. Exactly at what point you can start practicing Raganuga, that we'll discuss now. But I hope this is clear. Now, see, what we do is basically we just take the ingredients of the Vaidhi Bhakti. We don't take the mood of Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, because in Vaidhi Bhakti, you are worshipping the Lord with awe and reverence. So you are thinking that, oh God, like Krishna is God and I am servant. So he's so big, I am so small. Of course, that humility principle is also common for all devotees. But then gradually the sentiments and the mood of your worship will change, because you start seeing Krishna as your friend, more as a friend rather than as a master. So those sentiments we have to ignore. We don't have to take those sentiments from Vaidhi Bhakti. So I hope you understand. So externally we take ingredients from Vaidhi Bhakti, but the internal mood we don't follow. We cultivate our own spontaneous worship of the Lord, which means that we relate with the Lord as a family member, as a lover, or as a friend, like that. So like that we do. So this is how we incorporate both things together. Okay. And if you see Srila Prabhupada himself in his purports, in his lectures, and everywhere, Srila Prabhupada always mentions this point that he always emphasizes that we are all supposed to serve Radharani. Radha is a foremost devotee for us, and without her mercy, without her blessings, we cannot even approach Krishna. And then actually the Gaudiya Vaishnava principle is that we want to ask Krishna, so you bless us that we actually can serve Radharani. It is actually the other way around. It is not the way, like initially we are taught that we approach Radharani, Hare, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in Krishna's service. But finally, true Gaudiya Vaishnava devotee who has developed that kind of mood, who's got attachment and a lot of sentiments for Radharani, then they will start shifting to this kind of sentiment that, okay, now we worship Krishna because we want to attain Radharani's mercy, like that. So this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur also, he also emphasized on the same principle, on the same point. So this is what we need to understand. We have to cultivate both things, and this is exactly what ISKCON is doing, because ISKCON is a worldwide movement, so it can attract people from all over the world. And when you attract people from all the world, they are coming from different backgrounds, cultures, caste, conditionings, nature. So there some devotees will be in the mode of ignorance, some will be in mode of passion, some already in the mode of goodness, some continuing from previous life, they will be very advanced devotees. So you'll get all varieties of devotees, all types of devotees. You'll get Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama also. And that's why you'll not be able to understand, because there are certain common principles that we follow in ISKCON externally, but internally all devotees, they will be at different levels of their spiritual advancement. So in order to maintain a certain discipline and to strictly follow the regulative principles, because see, if there are millions of devotees who join ISKCON, there will be maybe amongst the millions, there will be around, let's say 30 to 40% of devotees who will be habituated to some sinful activities, some breaking of regulative principles. So of course, in order to we cannot directly give them Raganuga Bhakti as such. That's why we need to maintain a proper standard, a very strict and disciplined standard, so that things are not taken very cheaply. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, he foresaw that. He saw that devotees will be joining throughout the world. That's why you'll see in his purport also, he has given us everything what is required to go back to Godhead. But then his emphasis is basically in cultivating devotees, to make outsiders devotees. And that's what maximum you'll see in his purpose also, like the refutation of Maya philosophy, then the point that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, and our duty in human form of life. So all these kind of things you will see repeatedly Prabhupada saying in his purpose, right? The only reason is because he's attracting people from all over the world. So you never know, like when you are attracting such a big, on such a massive scale, then you have to take a lot of precautions. And that's why it is not possible to talk about Raganuga Bhakti in a very explicit way. But yes, implicitly, when we advance, then these things will come naturally and it will also be revealed to us. So let's see how can we practice Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON. Okay, so for this, I would like you to refer to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22 chapter 156 to 157. It's taking some time, I think, because of some internet connection issue. Uh, Let me start the database. Oh, so not working. Can someone share on the screen? CC Madhya Leela, chapter 22.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'm trying. CC Badilya, chapter
CC Madhya, chapter 22.
20.
Otherwise, wait, I have got in the Word file. Let me share that directly. Okay. Yeah, so 22, 156 to 157. Maya antarayara duite sadhana, Maya sadhaka de kare shravana kirtana, Mane nija siddha deya kariya bhavana, ratri dine kare vraje Krishna sevana. Translation: there are two processes by which we may execute this Raganuga Bhakti, external and internal. When self-realized, the advanced devotee externally remains like a neophyte and executes all the Shastric injunctions, especially those concerning hearing and chanting. But within his mind, in his original purified self-realized position, he serves Krishna in Vrindavan in his particular way. He serves Krishna 24 hours a day, all day and night. Yeah, So see, this is what we actually follow in ISKCON. External and internal way. So internally means, you can always remember Krishna. Srila Prabhupada always encourage us to constantly chant Krishna's name, to remember Krishna's pastimes, qualities, name, forms, etc. Right? So that way, Prabhupada always encourage us to do that. Internally, we can remember Krishna as much as possible, and externally, we behave like a neophyte sadhaka, and that is where Vaidhi Bhakti comes in. So we don't show off. We don't say that okay, we are Raganuga Bhaktas, and externally we are doing this drama, but internally we are thinking about Krishna's lila and all. We, as we advance in bhakti, will feel more and more humble also, and that way we'll always think that we are very fallen. So we'll be able to externally cultivate the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, and we'll always think that we are not qualified. But internally, because of greed, intense greed. So see, what happens is that a devotee will definitely feel very fallen, because he'll feel that I'm not qualified to practice this path. But because of his intense greed, the devotee will by taking permission of the guru, he will start meditating internally. So now there are different stages of remembrance, different type categories of Raganuga sadhana. It's like, someone may start internally meditating on one's own Siddhadev. So mentally conceive Siddhadev, which means that someone thinks that okay, like one needs to know one's rasa with the Lord. So once you are confirmed that this is your ras with the Lord, then you conceive a spiritual body in your mind. You imagine that you are a gopi, or you are a sakha, or you are like you have a parental relation with Krishna, and then based on that you start following a particular associate. So you will also get inclined to a particular associate of the Lord. For example, Lalita Sakhi, Vishaka, Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, or Yashoda Maya, Nand Maharaj, Subal, Sri Rama, like that. So you will get attached to their services. You will have a clear, you have a very clear picture in your mind that okay, I would like to follow this particular associate of the Lord in Vrindavan. And after that, because these two things are important in the beginning. First of all, you must know your ras, and then second thing is you must know which eternal associate you are supposed to follow. So that has to be revealed to you, and that can come by previous impressions from the past lives, or it can come due to mercy of devotees in this life, or by your sadhana, as you please Vaishnavas and Guru, then the name will reveal to you. So three things can reveal to you. One is the name, one is the Guru, and the third is the advanced Vaishnava. So these three can reveal to you your Swarup. So basically, and Prabhupada also says this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Prabhupada in the Adi Leela, 4th chapter, 34th verse. In the purport, Prabhupada, what he says? He says, devotees who are inclined to read pastimes connected to particular ras are in that ras. So Prabhupada says something like that. Okay. So that means that a devotee, when they are sincerely following the path, the process of Krishna consciousness, then these things will be revealed to them naturally by the mercy of the holy name. So this is how gradually you can move forward. So in ISKCON, we incorporate two elements, Panchratik Vidhi and Bhagavad Vidhi. And what is Bhagavad Vidhi? Bhagavad Vidhi is the path of spontaneous love, and that includes Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. And one of the most prominent elements of Raganuga Bhakti is basically Smaranam, remembrance. So, because as I was sharing earlier, that externally you behave like a sadhaka, Vaidhi Bhakta. Internally, you conceive a form or you realize your ras. Or, and of course, now whether whatever you believe, like you may realize that okay, you have a particular ras with the Lord, but is that eternally your ras? Is that truly your ras in the spiritual world? That is questionable. So you have to see whether that ras remains steady throughout your devotional career. Okay, if it is steady and if you are able to recognize and realize the devotees to whom you get attracted to in Krishna Lila, and then there are further signs of revelation, then it's possible that okay, your ras is like that. It is truly like that. And of course, Rupa Goswami also mentioned in Bhakti Samrita, whatever you conceive at the time of sadhana, that you achieve at the stage of perfection. So whatever you practice during the time of sadhana, that you attain at the stage of perfection. So that is why at the stage of sadhana also these things are important in the sense that the sentiments are very important. If you worship throughout your devotional career Krishna as a master with awe and reverence, then you cannot expect that you will attain Krishna in Vrindavan. Then, of course, I mean, you may worship Krishna or Ram or Vishnu also. So accordingly, you will attain that kind of destination. If you are particularly attracted to Krishna without Radharani and the gopis, then you will attain Dwarka. But if with Radharani, then you attain different destinations. So that sentiment has to be there. What exactly you would like to achieve at the end? That I think that should be revealed gradually to you once you start practicing Krishna consciousness sincerely. So now the question is that uh, qualification. So what is the qualification for practicing Raganuga Bhakti? We have already discussed that. That is greed. What is the qualification to practice Vaidhi Bhakti? That is faith. Shraddha. Shraddha in what? In scripture, in Shastra. Whereas Raganuga is independent of scripture. So greed, lalsa is actually the qualification to practice Raganuga Bhakti. Now, at what stage this greed can come? Shraddha, sadhusang, bhajan kriya, natta nivritti, nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhav, prem. What stage it can come? Greed can come at any stage. There is no particular time or no fixed time at which greed is going to manifest. You can attain greed from previous lifetime also. That's why some devotees are very greedy right from the beginning of their Krishna consciousness. They are enthused and they would like to advance. So you can see that they make quick advancement also. So they are very greedy, and that greed, and of course, now what is the cause of the greed? The cause of greed is of course association of mercy of devotees, and association of Krishna or the mercy of Krishna or the deity form of Krishna also can be the cause of the greed. So the greed can come at any point of time. But the question is that, okay, if a devotee identifies that he has the greed, then what is the greed? So how do we identify if I have greed for Krishna in Vrindavan or not? So then the way you can identify is that whether you are attracted to Krishna's Vraj Leela and whether you are really eager to hear about it, whether you really like to hear, to chant about it and to remember about it. So if you have these tendencies, then yes, the greed is there. And you give a lot of emphasis and priority to whatever it takes to cultivate your sadhana, which is Bhagavad. It is more of spontaneous in nature. So you give more priority to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam rather than the other aspects of bhakti, rather than the rules and regulations aspect of bhakti. The main purpose. So as Rupa Goswami also says that the entire process, the entire thing that we do in Krishna consciousness, whatever we are doing, ultimately we have to, the main essential principle is to always remember the Lord and to never forget him. If your whatever you do, austerities you do or whatever you do, if that does not make you, it does not enable you to remember Krishna, then it is actually, in one sense, it is not useful. Okay, so most of the limbs of bhakti which makes you favorable for Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, those limbs of bhakti you will have a lot of taste and you would like to do it continuously, right? So these are the symptoms of someone who is actually greedy. And of course, greed does not mean that it is for some time. It will be constantly there. So because there is the concept of abhas also, like we may have we may express some kind of bhav for the Lord, but that bhav is temporary. It may go away after some time, or it is only because of influence of other advanced devotees, and that is reflected in us for time being, but then it goes away. So you may have a lot of sentiments for the Lord, but if you break the regulative principles, if you are sinful in nature, then of course that is actually abhas. It is not the real thing. Okay, that's how we identify greed. Now the question is, at what stage should we? Someone has the now those who do not have the greed, they have to wait till the time they attain greed. So Vaidhi Bhakta devotees, as I said, that they have to incorporate these elements. Now what they are supposed to do is they have to follow the rules and regulations, but internally by focusing more on pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, than Gaur Leela, they have to cultivate those sentiments, similar sentiments as that of Rajvasis, internally. And when they develop sufficient greed, then they can start also practicing Raganuga Bhakti, right? So see, advanced devotees also, they will not forsake the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, because externally they will always show themselves as a ordinary sadhaka, and also to teach others, not just for oneself, but also to teach others. So that's why they will not stop altogether Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, so that's why we get confused, because most of the devotees that we see in ISKCON, they externally display Vaidhi Bhakti. It seems that they are also following a regulative schedule, and they are also very strict in their discipline and all that, in certain rules and regulations. So it seems like that, but internally they may be at a different level altogether. Okay, so this is how the greed can be manifested, by associating with those who have greed. By their mercy, it can be manifested. And then once you attain the greed, then now the question is that at what stage should we start practicing Raganuga Bhakti? So generally, Prabhupada says that unless and until one is free from material contamination, one should not think about the practice of Raganuga Bhakti. So Anartha Nivritti, after that Nishtha, the state of Nishtha comes. So when one is steady in devotion, then that point of time one may start gradually start the process of Raganuga Bhakti. As I shared earlier, that see, there are different categories. Like a devotee who is Uttama Adhikari, the topmost Mahabhagavad devotee, he will think of Krishna, pastime, the associates of the Lord, the dham of the Lord 24 hours a day. He may also serve in that Siddhadeha, in his internal body, spiritual body. He will probably serve constantly throughout the day. And externally, he may seem like an ordinary sadhaka. Those who are Madhyamadhikaris, they may be at a certain stage where they are at least able to remember the pastimes of the Lord, and they are able to appreciate the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So for a good amount of time, they are able to do it. Okay, so these are different. So there are stages where you start some remembrance of the Lord, some appreciation of the Lord, of like the Krishna and his associates in Vrindavan, and then gradually you start spending more time because you get taste. So you get taste, then internally you would like to expand your time with the Lord. So in the spiritual body, you can do all these things. In the mentally conceived body, okay. So these are different levels. There are different levels. So we'll not go into details of all these things. It will be revealed to us naturally. The revelation will come at the appropriate time. So one time, Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada that what about Siddhadeha? Like, are we supposed to meditate on the Siddhadeha, using the Siddhadeha? And I will explain to you also the meaning of Siddhadeha later on. Maybe I think we'll have to take a part 3 class. So there I will explain you Siddhadeha also. But some idea I have already given to you about the mentally conceived body. So Bhakti Charumari asked about Siddhadeva, and Prabhupada said that when the time comes, everything will be revealed to you. Okay, so this we have to remember. You don't need to do anything external separately. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, they have always emphasized preaching and Harinam Sankirtan, and depending on the Naam, in order for the Swarup to be revealed to us. And of course, we are Ghoshtanandis because Prabhupada wanted us to become Ghoshtanandis. Of course, Prabhupada also wanted us to become Bhajananandis. But what type of Bhajananandi? Prabhupada also says in one purport. He says that the best type of Ghoshtanandi is the best Bhajananandi. So one should always know that if you want your preaching to be effective, then you have to also become a very elevated Bhajananandi, which means that internally you have to have your bhajan very strong, fixed. And because through that bhajan only, like purity is the force, we say like that. Sadhana is the force. Sadhana, by sadhana, the purity comes. So if you have a very strong sadhana, and if you are internally immersed in Krishna, then only your preaching will be effective. The more advanced you are, the more advanced preaching will be there. Of course, those who are the stage of bhav can bestow bhav bhakti to others. Those who are the stage of prema can bestow prem bhakti to others. And those who are at lower stages, for example, someone at the stage of anartha nivriti, you cannot expect that he can bestow prema or bhav to others, right? Because he himself has to attain that stage. So the more you are advanced, the more you can actually make devotees very effectively, very quickly, and effectively in the terms of quality also. Plus, a very strong Bhajananandi who has a very good sadhana, who is internally immersed, absorbed, like we have to put efforts to preach. We have to go out, we have to talk to people, we have to cultivate, we have to arrange so many things. Physically, we have to involve our senses, so that we are totally engaged in Krishna's service. If we don't actively physically involve our senses, then we'll be distracted by other things, and we may break the regulative principle also. But those who are internally absorbed in Krishna, then the Lord will arrange in such a way that they don't even have to go anywhere. They just sit at one place and people come to them, and that's how they preach. And the preaching will spread throughout the world like that. So one particular example I remember, when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had taken Babaji Vesh. So earlier he was a preacher. He's the one who actually started the foundation of Krishna consciousness movement, started from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's the seed of the movement. So earlier he used to preach a lot. He wrote so many books also. But then at some point of time, he decided to take Babaji Vesh and to dedicate his entire life in bhajan. So when he was in Jagannath Puri, so that time he was chanting the name of the Lord, and he was feeling some kind of repentance that, oh Lord, I'm sitting here and I'm not doing any preaching, and like I'm just chanting your name and I'm just doing bhajan. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him, and he told him that just by your chanting the holy name in Jagannath Puri, Krishna consciousness, the Naam will spread throughout the world. So that's why Srila Prabhupada also gave credit to Bhaktivinoda Thakur once, when he said that if Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted, he could have made the entire world Krishna conscious, but then he left that task for me. So Prabhupada, that way he gave the credit to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So like that. So Bhajanandis, they are, at such a level that if they want, they can, by their desire, they can actually spread Krishna consciousness just by sitting at one place. So like that. So the best Ghoshtanandi is the best Bhajananandi. That also we need to understand. And that's why we need to cultivate sadhana simultaneously. We have to go internally deep in our sadhana. We have to cultivate, and we have to advance in the higher stages of bhakti. Then we are able to effectively preach. Right? So for that, we need, of course, now how it is done, that we'll discuss in detail. There are many, many points remaining. Because in ISKCON, we have a preaching mission, and we are taking responsibility to preach Krishna consciousness. So when we take responsibility, of course, it is not possible to sit down at one place and to always remember the Lord, because there are so many disturbances. There's so much anxiety. There's so much trouble that we are, like, for example, if you are opening a temple, then there are so many complications in that, so many issues, problems, not just, okay, once the temple is opened, it is constructed, it is open for public, but then you have to maintain devotees who are there in the temple, maintain the sense that you have to take care of devotees, you have to um, get involved in so many issues that you would not like to be involved, right? So when we are taking some responsibility for Prabhupada's mission, then things are not going to be the same, because all these things, the acharyas, whatever they are saying, the previous acharyas. So one thing you can understand, that it's only at the time of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur that he had a organization that was spread in India. He had 64 branches in India. But then only Srila Prabhupada took it to the entire corner of the world. So that way, beyond Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, you will not see that there was an organization as such. I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur did establish Namahats, but then it was not widespread. So, I mean, there were no building, big structures, Govindas, guest houses, and all that. So if you want to manage all these things, then of course there has to be certain adjustments. You cannot equate both things together. So this is what I wanted to explain to you. So how in ISKCON, when devotees, they take all these responsibilities, roles, because the idea is that internally, when you start practicing, cultivating your relationship with the Lord, I don't think it is possible for sadhakas, devotees, that they will be able to focus on their bhajan to a very intense degree. There will be a lot of disturbances. I mean, when we are taking responsibility, you can understand, just to maintain a family, it takes a lot. I mean, even for Grihasthas also, forget about managing a temple or establishing a temple or taking a service, lifetime service, like book distribution seva or prasad distribution seva, or whatever type of service you take, there will always be challenges and responsibility for that, right? So forget about all these things. Just take the example of a Grihastha. Now, how a Grihastha is supposed to meditate on the pastimes or meditate on a particular associate of the Lord? Because the Grihastha meditation is to take care of the family, children, parents, elders, like, we are thinking of so many things. So how can we manage all these things? These are important issues that we are going to address in the next part. I think time is up now. If I continue the class, then I think till another 1 hour to discuss all these points. So let's stop here. Yeah, and then in the next part, I think we'll be able to finish probably, and you'll be able to understand the way Prabhupada actually wanted. He had actually created a system, and if you follow the process and system, then we can also attain the ultimate destination. So how that can take place, that is something we'll be discussing in the next part. Okay, all right. So if there are any questions or comments, we can take it now.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, would you like me to share CC 22, Madhya Lila?
No, that's fine. No problem. We already showed it. I think you are able to see, right, on the screen?
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay.
Prabhuji, I have...
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to know, like Ghoshna Nandi, what you mentioned, are there any examples from a few names from Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri or Mayapur you mentioned?
Ghoshna Nandi. Examples of Ghoshna Nandi.
Yeah, like you mentioned there are some preachers who may not go out and do preaching, but
I think everyone knows. One example is Maharaj.
But I just would like you to mention, so the names.
Yeah.
Few names, whatever you want.
Yeah. So see, whichever devotee is, of course, we can say that Sripad Ayendra Prabhu is one of the classic examples of that. I mean, he had taken a vow never to leave Vrindavan. He resided in Braj, but now we can understand that whatever service he did in Vrindavan, that spread throughout the world. So because of him, so many devotees are increasing their commitment for Krishna consciousness, their dedication, their surrender, their interest for kirtan has aroused like anything, because the way Andhra Prabhu gave kirtans. So, and then of course, when we hear Andhra Prabhu's kirtan, it has a different transcendental feeling altogether. So, from our movement, I am saying, then there are many devotees who are in the background. They are not known to us, but they are doing preaching. Another example I can remember is of Deen Bandhu Prabhu also, who is residing in Vrindavan, but he also travels. He goes outside of Vrindavan. He travels to different parts of the world and he shares Krishna Katha, Braj Leela. Then, yeah, and one more thing we need to understand. So there are different levels and types of Brajvasis. So there is one Brajvasi who has taken his birth in Braj, but then he goes outside and lives in the city. Like he will shift to Delhi or Bombay, and he will, because of some work or something like that. Then there is Brajvasi who has taken birth in Braj, but who is also staying in Braj. And then there is another type of Brajvasi who is actually not staying in Braj, but he has dedicated his entire life in Krishna's service and cultivating the sentiments of Braj. So that way also one becomes a Brajvasi. And then there is another type of Brajvasi who who has not lived in Braj, but who goes to Braj, resides in Braj, and then leaves the body in Braj. So there are different categories of Brajvasi. But the best Brajvasi is the one who, with body, mind, and words, he has served Krishna, like completely surrendered to Krishna. So that is the best type of Brajvasi. And that Brajvasi, Prabhupada also said that, I mean, Prabhupada actually, he was the one who actually left Vrindavan and he came to the Western world. So in one sense, Prabhupada was the greatest Brajvasi, but he traveled. But yeah, there are examples like that in our movement who have been residing in Braj, and just by their purity, just by their bhajan, they have attracted so many devotees. So like that, outside also we have some examples like Premanand Maharaj seems to be one of them. Vinod Baba also. Now because of social media platform, even the Bhadranandis, they are, they've become actively involved in preaching. So what I've heard is that, for example, Vinod Baba. So in the morning he gets up at around 4 o'clock. He starts chanting, and he chants all the way up to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So 12 hours of constant chanting every day, and then he does the Barsana Parikrama daily for hours. And then of course he has his reading and sadhana and then prachar and all. So I mean, like once you attain siddh, like your sadhana becomes perfect, then your bhajan is constant. It is like continuously going on internally. So those devotees, they are able to do all these things. But for us, it is a challenge because we have to gradually advance. But yeah, there are examples like that.
So the in short, I would like to mention that the purity or the pureness from those devotees, those senior devotees who are really practicing such a stringent way, the bhakti, that draws the attention of the new or sincere devotees, I can say. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I do remember one example of His Holiness Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. One time, one devotee went to him and told him that, Maharaj, for building this temple, we have to go, like we have to put so many efforts, and it is also disturbing our sadhana and all that. And Maharaj said that if you chant attentively and focus on your, bhajan, your sadhana, then people will come to you. You don't have to even go and put efforts. It will come to you
Yeah.
automatically. The
That's
Lord
a very
like that.
Yeah. That's a good example, Maharaj.
Yeah. So this is true actually. This is very true. There are instances where if you are fully engaged in Krishna's service, then the Lord will arrange. And if you have a sincere desire, of course, see, the main principle is the desire. Now, what we are saying is what Prabhupada said, what our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, is that we want to be Goshtanandi. And by that, it means that we must have the desire to share Krishna consciousness with others. Okay, so there are different categories also of Bhajanandis. As I said, that there are Bhajanandis who will do bhajan to purify themselves. They will not preach. But then there are Bhajanandis, very advanced Bhajanandis, who will do bhajan in order to inspire others. Because we also need that kind of examples. See, we are talking about someone who a Krishna conscious ideal devotee is the one who actually constantly thinks about Krishna, who will chant his name. So where is that example? If you don't have Bhajanandis, then where is that example? And it also reminds me of one particular example, this Prabhupada Leela, where Prabhupada was in his Jew quarters. So that time Prabhupada was managing the temple, and I think he was having some discussion about finances regarding the temple with his disciples. And there was one person who came from outside. He was seeing Prabhupada in his quarters sitting, and Prabhupada is like, talking about money, counting money and finances and all. So he is bewildered. He comes to Prabhupada and says that, Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Satatam Kirtayantomam, a devotee actually constantly chants the name of Krishna. But here I am seeing that you are counting and you are directing and you are managing and all that. So like, I am really bewildered. So Prabhupada became grave, and Prabhupada called that person. He said, come here, come close to me and put your head on my shoulder. And the moment that person put his shoulder on Prabhupada's, his head on Prabhupada's shoulder, he could hear from within the body of Prabhupada, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Prabhupada is not saying Hare Krishna Maha, he's not chanting. From inside his body, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra is going on.
Yeah.
So this is of course, these are Nitya Siddha devotees who can do this. Those who have already attained Siddha, they have attained perfection. These devotees, they have this potency. But there are some devotees who are just chanting because they want to save themselves. So that kind of motivation is not approved by our acharyas. So this is what we have to understand, that yeah, we need to go internally deep in our bhajan, because that bhajan will ultimately purify me, and it will also have effect on the preaching. That's why sadhana is very important for us. And
Thank you.
yeah, of course, if you remember, there was a class that I gave, which sadhana versus seva. And in that, I had shown you many different things that Prabhupada said at different times. So apparently, seeming that, okay, you may say that sadhana is only about chanting Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam. This is sadhana. But for Prabhupada, sadhana was different at a particular time. And then for Prabhupada, seva was different at a particular time. So sometimes, seva can become sadhana and sadhana can become seva. Like that. It is interrelated to each other. You cannot separate it. So it all depends on the desire of the acharya. So you have to, ultimately, the goal is to please the resident of Vrindavan. That's what we'll also see later on, what it means to practice Raganuga Bhakti. So one pointed attention to the desire to please the desire of the Guru. That is actually Raganuga Bhakti also, in one sense, because ultimately the Vrajvasis, we say that we want to cultivate the sentiments of the Vrajvasis, but then what are the Vrajvasis doing? Their entire consciousness, their entire goal is to please Krishna, not even give 1 second of thought for their own pleasure. They only want to think how to give pleasure to Krishna every second, every moment. So what does that mean? For the sadhaka, it means, because we cannot see Krishna is not associating with us, and the representative of Krishna is Guru. So we focus the sentiment we take from the Vrajvasi, and then we channelize that sentiment to the Guru. So thinking that he is representative of Krishna. So whatever pleases the Guru, that becomes the foremost for us. So that sentiment itself becomes Raganuga Bhakti for us, like that, you know. And then sadhana seva definition will change, because then if the Guru wants us to do something and we are doing something else, like we want to chant the chant to 64 rounds, 128 rounds, but Guru wants us to do something else. He has a different seva for us. Then we are supposed to follow that. We are supposed to do that at that particular point of time, right? This is what we have discussed in the sadhana versus seva class. So the definition will also change. Yeah, so all these things will have cleared in the next part of the class.
Yes, Swami, thank you so much for wonderful explanations and
Yeah,
examples.
because like for example, your Gurudev, he may have given you some instruction. And if I tell you that, Prabhuji, you are supposed to do Raganuga, you are supposed to practice Raganuga if you want to go to Vraj. And so you cannot think that, okay, now because our acharyas, they have said, and this is the only way, there is no other way. If I don't do it, I will not attain Krishna. That is a great mistake. Then what you will do, you will probably disobey the instruction, you will discontinue the instruction that your spiritual master gave, and then you will try to focus on your own self. But then now you are saying that Guru is the representative of Krishna, but Krishna is telling you something, you are not following that, you are following your own mind, right? So this is where we also have to be careful, because devotees may say, that, okay, Raganuga practice means we are supposed to sit internally, meditate on this and that. All things will be covering in the next class. The esoteric form of Raganuga Bhakti, the exoteric form of Raganuga Bhakti, and how do we need to incorporate these things. Okay, and if we are not able to do it because we are following the instructions of Guru, we are committed, we have taken a responsibility, and that is expected from us, then what will happen? Will we attain Krishna and Vrindavan? All these things will be covered in the next class. So these are important and critical issues.
Yes, Swami, thank you so much. And if any other devotees has question, they can ask. I don't want to hold anyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. This is Geeta.
Hare
So you mentioned about Premananda ji. Are you talking about the Premananda ji who is there today in Vrindavan?
Yeah, I mean, seems so that he's attracting by his potency.
Yeah. And he's Radharani's Bhakt, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that though he openly says. I mean, there is no question of hiding anything in that. So he claims that, and his followers also claim.
And Prabhuji, Braj is including what geographical areas in Vrindavan? Does it cover from Gokul to all the way till the the whole area?
Yeah, okay. So, okay, that's a good question, because it's important to know. Since we are discussing about Brajvasis, then of course, where are they staying? They are staying in Brajdham. And then the question is that, okay, to what extent Braj is expanded, or how much it is pervaded in the Bhoma Braj area. So, see, the first thing is that Vraj actually means, I think this also we have covered in one of our classes. I have explained the meaning of Vraj. Vraj means that which pervades everywhere. That's actually the meaning of Vraj. Vraj means it pervades everywhere. And that's why Prabhupada said that whenever a pure devotee goes anywhere, he converts that place into Vraj. So now how will you define the geographical limitations of Vraj?
That's right, Prabhuji. No geographical limits. So then in that case, there should not be also for, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll discuss these points in next class, because of course there is the place where Krishna appeared and he has performed his Leela. So some differences there. There are different types of Vraj, and we'll discuss about that. But yeah, the current Vraj Mandal Parikrama, if you consider, so whatever comes in that, except Mathura, so all that is part of Vraj.
Oh, Mathura is not included. Okay.
I mean, Mathura is included in Braj Mandal, but it is also separate because there is awe and reverence like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
One thing also I wanted to share is that see, whatever Premanand Maharaj shares in his classes, I am not sure how many devotees are hearing him regularly. Of course, there is nothing wrong to hear, but if someone will mistakenly think that, oh, Premanand Maharaj is giving something new, sharing some new information, or he is saying something which is advanced, that is not true at all. Because whatever, see, I have heard Premanand Maharaj many times, and it does not amaze me because whatever Premanand Maharaj says, it's all given in our books of the Acharyas. It's all there in the Goswami's literature. In fact, Premanand Maharaj quotes from Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami also many times. And he has also said one time that who is greater than our Goswamis? Who can understand Tattva of Radharani higher than these Goswamis? So he has named, like Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Rup Goswami, Jeev Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. Whatever he says, it is all there. It's just that because you don't know, you have not read the books of the Acharyas, or maybe you have not read Prabhupada's books thoroughly. That's why you are not able to understand that. But I mean, for me, it is not that, like, because I know all information is given, or whatever Pundrik Goswami says. It's all, and of course, Pundrik Goswami is in our line only, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line. So he will say whatever our Goswamis say. But outside of that, whoever will say, even Vinod Baba also, he's in our line only, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya. So whatever he will say, which is what is according to his Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings only. But then outside of that, you may hear certain things, but then of course we have plethora of information available that you have not heard. It's just a matter of time. You have to make the commitment to actually read the books of the Acharyas regularly. Then you will be able to understand many things.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
The entire,
Yeah, Premanandaji, 70% of his talk is all about japa. He focuses totally on doing the, japa. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he caters to outside people also, and then there are devotees also who will ask him questions and he will answer. So, yeah.
I attended his Ekantik Vartalab this February.
Oh, actually,
Yeah.
personally, you had gone there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Mhm.
Okay. So basically, we appreciate and we take inspiration from his example, but ultimately we follow our own sampradaya, and we have a lot of pride for our own sampradaya, because the philosophy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, you cannot compare with anyone else. That's the highest and the topmost philosophy that you actually can get. You'll not get it anywhere else. So there are many things you are not aware, but it's the best philosophy that you can ever get. It's just a matter of which devotee you get in contact with. If the devotees can explain to you, that is the best thing. So whatever questions you have about the Dham Tattva, the Leela Tattva, the Prem Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Ras Tattva, it's all there in the books of the Acharyas. And it is given, I mean, it is simply outstanding. You'll just enjoy. I mean, Siddhanta, like, you will not see anywhere else like that. Whatever Acharyas have given, phenomenal, ultimate Siddhant, the way they have explained. And then, of course, Leelas, though, like, there are, I mean, ocean of Leelas of the Lord that you'll find in Gaudiya Sampradaya. So,
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Actually, it really means one has to really stick to their own guru, and once we are already following the sampradaya, make sure we are following our.
yeah, that is, see, loyalty is there, but that loyalty also comes when you have that conviction.
Yes.
And that conviction will come only when you realize and understand what our acharyas they have given to us. So, see, like, if there is some information that is missing in our literature, then we accept it. It's not that we are saying that because we are connected to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya, that's why our Sampradaya gives the highest thing. No, it is not like that. I mean, we have to see it from a neutral point of view also. Whether other Sampradayas, what they are giving, what is the destination, what kind of Siddhant they are presenting, from all angles of vision, we have to see, and then we have to be convinced. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. This is the perfect thing, Achinta Bhedaved will reconcile everything. And then in terms of Siddhant also, so many details in terms of Krishna Lila also. Okay. Like for example, what I have heard is that I think the other Sampradayas, they worship Krishna in Swakiya Bhav. Talking not talking about the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, leave that apart, but the others in Vrindavan, they are probably worshipping Krishna in Swakiya Ras. And that too, they only focus on the Leelas of Radha and Krishna. Now, of course, ultimate goal of any Gaudiya Vaishnava is to worship Radha and Krishna 24 hours a day. But then we also understand that there are 2 aspects of these Leelas. One is the Vipralamba aspect, and one is the Sambhog aspect. If you only do Sambhog, and if there is no Vipralamba, then there is also lacking of ras in that. Some lacking is there in the relationship because the relationship gets too familiar. Okay, there are no challenges in the relationship. So the intensity of your emotions, it will be restricted. But when you have Vipralamba, when there is Parikiya concept, or when there is Vipralamba, Vipralamba does not only mean Parikiya concept. It also means when Krishna goes to the forest and he's separated from the gopis or Yashoda Maya and Nand Maharaj, when he's there with the Sakhas. So that time Vipralamba is experienced by Yashoda Maya, Nand Maharaj, and the gopis also. And those who are servants of Krishna, they also experience Vipralamba. But that Vipralamba, it actually intensifies their desire and prema for the Lord. So when the Lord meets them again, that Sambhog will be much more relished. And it's an eternal principle. It's a dynamic thing. It's not that it becomes static at some point of time. It becomes boring or it becomes same. It like, for example, it is said that whenever Radharani sees Krishna, she feels that she's seeing Krishna for the first time. Every time she sees Krishna. Okay. So for her, it is always new experience and dynamic relationship. So that way, Vipralamba and Sambhog, they are 2 sides of the same coin. They are required. Okay. And then of course, Parikiya Ras is there because there are so many challenges. There are so many obstacles. You have to hide your love. You cannot seek, you cannot openly express your love. So then your love intensifies because you are in anxiety, constant anxiety. So all these things are there in our scriptures. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has spoken about Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All these points are there. So coming to the point, of course we are loyal to our sampradaya, but then it should not be with blind faith. The faith has to be there. It should not be blind. You have to be open. You can hear from different sources. You can try to understand their point of view also. But then neutrally, just like we say that the conjugal rasa is the highest. Because now, how do you actually see? Because it is relative. You cannot really say that it is highest because someone like Hanuman will feel that his love for the Lord is highest. So how do you explain that the gopis' love is the highest? How do you define that? Anyone knows that? How do you explain to a devotee that how gopis' love is the highest? You have to explain from a neutral point of view. And then, like another question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, that the pastime of Shri Narad Muni, and he asked Krishna that who is your topmost devotee. So from that, gopis are the highest devotees of the Lord.
Yeah. So there is Shastra Praman. So you are basically quoting Brihad Bhagavatamrit, where Narad Muni is trying to experiment. He's testing which devotee is the highest devotee. And then Sanatan Goswami is presented in a format of a story, but ultimately the Praman he has got it from Srimad Bhagavatam and some other scriptures also. right? So that's a genuine thing. And you can also explain that there are different levels of prema for the devotees of the Lord, corresponding to the forms of the Lord. So for Krishna, if someone wants to attain Krishna in Vrindavan, the state of prema is not sufficient. You have to go beyond that. Prem, sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav, and then mahabhav also, rudh mahabhav, adi rudh mahabhav, madanakya mahabhav, monakya mahabhav, like that. So these are intensities of prema, and someone who is at the stage of Vaikunt devotee, he does not have all these developed stages of prema. So that way also technically we can understand that these devotees, they have more extreme attachment towards Krishna, because ultimately awe and reverence is there in the relationship of Hanumanji with Lord Ram, right? So that will restrict their prema to a certain extent. They cannot do all things that other devotees can do. And then similarly, someone will ask you that how do you prove that Krishna is supreme? So one class I think we had taken in, where we established how Krishna displays maximum qualities compared to any other form of God. And this is according to Shastra. This is according to observation, historical observation. There is no other form of the Lord who has displayed all these qualities and who has shown more power than Krishna. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amal Puran. So did we have the session on glories of Srimad Bhagavatam? Maybe earlier we had, but there we established, Jiva Goswami established is how Bhagavatam is the Amal Praman amongst all the scriptures. So it is not sentiment. It is not just because we are loyal to a particular sampradaya. It is, we have to prove it by Shastric references. And by, in the glories of Bhagavatam, we also see that there is a common acceptance of the glories of Bhagavatam amongst the different professors in universities throughout the world. So that also academically I presented. Of course, that is all taken from Radhika Raman Prabhu's seminar class that he had given in ISKCON Silicon Valley. Because I'm not from the academic world, so Radhika Raman Prabhu's entire presentation, the essential points I had shown. That time it was very clear that how in the academic world also there's a lot of regards and respect for the Srimad Bhagavatam compared to any other scripture. So many unique points about Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that. So we need to understand all these things very thoroughly. That's why it is very important to hear all these things from devotees so that our conviction grows stronger and we can also present to others.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So if there are no further questions or comments, then we'll stop here and we'll continue next time.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this little class, such a wonderful topic, and you explained so nicely about Raganuga Bhakti, part 2. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Nobody has any question or comment, we can end up the call here.
Okay. Anant Koti Vaishnav ki jai.
Vanchakalpatarvasya kripa sindhu च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय. नमः ठाकुर की जय. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. His Grace Prema Rasa Prabhu की जय.
Jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.